Hey everyone, welcome to My Wife the Dietitian, a weekly podcast about lifestyle and healthy eating. I'm Rob, and together with my wife Sandra, we invite you to join us on this informative yet entertaining journey through the complex world of healthy eating.
We'll cover everything but the kitchen sink. Each week we'll discuss topics ranging from how to protect yourself from developing cancer, spicy foods to rev up the libido, to caring for your palliative grandfather with Alzheimer's.
We'll also delve into more complex issues like, what the heck is oat milk? Why doesn't my butt fit into these jeans? And every guy's favorite question, will eating spinach really make it bigger? Join us each week as we strive to educate, enlighten, and entertain you.
Are your kids constantly complaining that there's no food in the house, even though you just spent $400 on groceries? Mom, there's no food in the cupboards. Can we get pizza tonight? If this sounds like your house, then you need to listen to this episode with my wife, the dietitian.
This week, we're talking all about picky eaters. We'll give you some tips and tricks to help you deal with that mealtime madness.
Hey Sandra.
Hey Rob.
How's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to episode 13.
Wow. Yeah. Mealtime strategies for picky eaters.
Oh, those picky eaters.
Oh, yeah. And we have alluded to this in episode number 2 when we talked about our preteen vegetarian daughter.
You just about said prenatal.
No.
You did so. That would be kind of awkward.
Yeah, they're not quite making decisions at that point.
Yeah, or they're making bad decisions.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No.
So, yeah, as Sandra said, we alluded to that. We've alluded to it a few times, but today we're going to talk all about how to deal with those picky eaters. Children primarily, because that's when that habit starts. But we know adults that are still like that, they've probably been like that since they were kids. So if you can sort of nip it in the bud with your kids, then yeah, that should carry through.
It's a huge issue for many families, and where they go to war over the dinner table. So yeah, this is interesting, and we're going to start with a guiding principle with the feeding relationship in terms of parent and child.
Okay, and this is just across the board, kind of something to remember, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Before we get into our 9 mealtime strategies, I wanted to mention that the parent is responsible for what food and when, and the child is responsible for if they eat the food and how much.
Yeah. See, so I think a lot of people already are going, what? Really? Because there's so many parents who think that they are responsible for how much the child eats and if and what they eat. So that's part of the problem right there is knowing who's responsible for what.
Yeah, it's a lot of these principles were taken from Ellen Satter, dietitian, who's written many books and is kind of the guru on the feeding relationship with parents and children. And it's a pretty huge issue because there's a lot of parents that nag and you got to eat, just try one bite, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in terms of the strategies. But remembering that the parent is responsible for what food and when the meals and snacks are, and the child is responsible for if they eat it and how much. So
yeah.
It doesn't simplify it, but it kind of has clear, principles of the feeding relationship.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that once you've let that, once you've given that strategy a chance, you'll realize your child isn't going to starve themselves. They're going to eat. They just want to do it on their own terms. And so they're going to make a big fuss until they're able to do things on their own terms.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing. I remember an internship when I was at the Women's and Children's Hospital in Vancouver for a few weeks. And it was so interesting. My eyes were opened because we didn't have kids at that point. And to see just what impact and what can happen if, this kind of the feeding relationship is kind of the dynamic is there's a problem and there's an issue with trying to get kids to eat and, what kids can do because they are in charge of their body and they are in control of what goes, what they eat. And so it's, it's pretty interesting. So anyways.
All right. Well, let's see what you have to say about this then.
Great. Okay. So we have some, 9 mealtime strategies.
Perfect.
And number 1 we'll talk about is refrain from labeling your child.
Like labeling them as a picky eater.
Yeah, exactly. Or he's so picky, he'll only eat fries and hot dogs.
Yeah, it's almost like making an excuse for your child wherever you go. That's why they're not eating.
And the kids own that label. They will live up to that.
Yeah, they sure will.
And the more you say it, the more it's reinforced in them that, oh, yeah, I only eat fries and hot dogs. Or, oh, I don't like broccoli. Yeah, I've been told I don't like broccoli since I was a kid. And no, I won't eat it. And that's how these, food preferences and picky behaviors kind of start. A lot of times they start in childhood.
Yeah, for sure. And that goes right across the board. I mean, as far as any kind of label with your child, if your son or daughter is shy or whatever, that label will stick with them and will start to impact their personality as they grow up. So be careful what kinds of labels we use.
Or don't use labels.
Yeah, don't go there.
Yeah, exactly. So don't label your child. It's and sometimes behaviors, a lot of times they're just for a short time period and kids have food jags where they only want to eat certain things over and over and over. And that's okay. That's perfectly normal. And that's okay. Just don't start, labeling it or, calling it out or making a big deal of it.
Yeah, exactly. Kids will go through different phases and that's totally normal.
Absolutely. So the other one, we've talked about this before, don't make food a reward. So
that's a tough one because we're a reward-based society. I think there's so much of our behavior is driven by reward, and it's easy to do that with food. And we've always done it. But yeah, there's definitely a backlash to it if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's like if you eat your vegetables, you'll get dessert.
Yeah, or if you eat everything on your plate, you'll receive something as a,
Yeah, and you're set. There's so many problems with that. For one, okay, if you eat your vegetables, you get ice cream. That basically, how bad do the vegetables have to be if you need a reward to get them?
Exactly.
So it's kind of the child might think, oh wow, gosh, yeah, broccoli's so awful that they have to bribe me to get to eat it.
Exactly. It should be the other way around. If you eat your ice cream, you'll get your veggies.
That's right.
Right. The kid will be like, oh, okay.
A reverse psychology.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then the other, when you said eat everything on your plate, well, kids really know their own appetite. Kids are like, we should take lessons from kids because adults have all these ideas about diets and I can't eat at this time and and it's all external cues, whereas kids, it's internal cues. They listen to their appetite. They know if they're hungry and they know if they're not hungry, and we should respect that. And just if they don't want to eat everything on their plate, that's fine, because if they do, and if we keep saying eat everything on your plate, in 40 years, I'm going to be seeing them in my craving change class, and they have all these issues about, I have to finish everything on my plate. And if the plates are so huge and I'm now like overweight and I want to lose weight. And so it's interesting how these behaviors and these things that happen in childhood can really lead to, problems in later in life.
Issues as an adult. I have that issue actually because I was raised to finish everything on my plate. Fortunately, I'm not overweight, but I do eat everything on my plate still, and I will eat everything off everyone else's plate too. At the end of the meal, everyone just pushes their plate towards me because I don't like the idea of wasting food. So I think, I should finish it because I don't want to, there's only like 2 little spoonfuls left. You're not going to save it. You'll probably throw it away. So it's like, I'll just eat it.
Yeah, no, that's you have a huge appetite, and it's really good that you have an active lifestyle because
Yeah, I'm lucky.
Yeah, you have a high metabolism, and you can get away with having everybody's seconds and
I can
thirds.
burn it off. Yeah, but that's not the case with everyone. So
It's hard. We don't have leftovers a lot of times.
yeah, you're right.
No, I'm just joking. I have a strategy. I'll put like a part of the meal away before
you hide it
so that I'll have something for lunch the next day.
Sandra's got these little stashes of yummy leftovers. I'm like, that's where that went.
Yeah. Well, we make a lot of food. You should be fine with the amount we make.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's funny. All right. So that's number 2. Don't make food a reward. Number 3. What?
One more thing I was just going to mention, and this is maybe a reason why we're so stingy with food and leftovers. I bet a lot of our parents and grandparents grew up through the Depression, where you had to be really careful with that kind of stuff and not waste food.
Oh, yeah.
So
I remember my grandfather saying, there's starving kids in China, or there's starving kids in Africa, or, and so that like instills that, or your eyes are bigger than your stomach. So like when you order something at a restaurant and it's huge, and then you can't eat it all, and people mock you for, oh my God, look at how much food you took, and look at all the waste, and we paid hard-earned money for this food.
Yeah. So that's probably where that came from, but that was close to 100 years ago now. So, we can probably steer away from that now.
Yeah. And also, just to remember to listen to internal cues. So when you're, plating your own food or making your meal, you don't want to use huge plates and have too much.
Yeah, that's
too many portions.
That's the thing with, if you have smaller plates, smaller bowls, you can take something that's, say, a cup. If you put a cup worth of food into a big, huge bowl, it's not going to look like much, and you'll think, oh, that's not enough. But if you put that same amount of food in a smaller bowl, it'll be like the bowl will be full and heaping, and you'll think, oh, that's a good full portion of food. So it's kind of tricking your mind a little bit.
Optical illusions.
Yeah, and with kids too, you can, if you're needing to watch quantity, how much they're eating, then just smaller plates. And
child-sized plates. That makes
smaller,
sense. Yeah, child-sized portions, child-sized plates. Number 3, don't be a short order cook. So, meaning that...
Mom, I want French fries for dinner.
So, you make a meal, and then you bring it to the table, and, I don't want that. I want a peanut butter sandwich, or I don't want that. I want something else. Well, you know what? This is the dinner tonight, and if you want something else, you can get it yourself. Or if you don't want the dinner and you don't want to get it yourself, if it's a toddler, they can't get it themselves, then, they'll learn that this is what we're having, and this is, so, yeah. And you can offer a choice. So you can say, okay, do you want, red pepper or cucumber? Or do you want banana or strawberry? Or apple or pear? Or milk or water, so that there's choice there, but it's within your control, like the parent's control of what is offered, instead of the child saying, this is what I want, this is what we want for you to make.
Yeah, and it's a pretty common game that kids will play, and they enjoy it because if you do it once, your child has learned from that one time that they have the power to make you do what they ask you to do. So they're going to do it again.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you say no after that, then they're going to make a big fuss, because they know if they make a big enough fuss, then you'll give in. So. And
then they also play parents off each other too. They know that dad's a softie and mom's like the cop or whatever.
Mom's the hard ass.
Or the vice versa. I don't know. Every family is different, but I could tell that your child psychology schooling, like when you were in university and those courses are coming into play. You've done a lot of that, eh?
Yeah, I enjoy that, analyzing people and behavior, and I kind of understand some. So yeah, it's finally having some use.
Well, throughout our kids' upbringing too, it was very useful.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So don't like Sandra said, don't be a short order to cook. The concern is that, they'll eat it if I make what they ask, because you're concerned that they're not eating blah, blah, blah. And if they want a grilled cheese sandwich instead of whatever you've made for dinner. Oh, well, if I make the grilled cheese sandwich, then they'll eat it. And then we don't have to worry that they're going to starve. But your child is learning that they will get what they ask for if you play that game. So
Totally. Yeah.
they'll eat what you give them.
Yeah, and you
They'll
can definitely do like the grilled cheese, or like do something that they like, and you know that it's their favorite. Of course, you're going to treat your family and treat kids, but you got to offer variety in your meals. And so not just like, I think on episode 2, we talked about some of the kids menus in restaurants, and how a lot of families are, bringing that home, and that's what they feed their kids, because that's all the kids will eat, like the hot dogs and the fries and
it's a pretty standard menu.
Yeah,
You can almost name it blindfolded. There's chicken fingers, there's grilled cheese sandwich, mac and cheese, hot dog, hamburger.
Yeah.
Right.
And guess what? What happens if that's all they're eating as they're growing up? That's all they will want to eat when they get older. And what kind of nutritional status will they have?
Yeah.
It's setting them up for a lifetime of, that's their health.
Lifetime of eating chicken fingers.
Well, I don't know. It's just health, right? We've got to offer variety with vegetables and with whole grains and, different things, not just things in a package that are easy to prepare.
Exactly.
And actually, it kind of goes to the next one, be patient with new foods. So it actually takes 16 different tries, at least 16, to determine if you truly like something or not.
Yeah, and that's huge, because there's so many people will try something once or twice, and they'll base it for the rest of their life. They'll think, no, I don't like this.
Yeah, I don't like broccoli.
I learned as a child that no, I don't. But
Yeah. Try and try again. So if they didn't like cooked broccoli, try raw broccoli with dip. Try broccoli soup. Try, different ways it's prepared, and then they probably will like it. And so, and the same with anything, like all of the foods, because as they're learning about foods, they are going to, they're learning about the different textures, the different flavors, the different tastes, like the different elements, like, broccoli, the cruciferous vegetables are kind of sulfury. And so people, sometimes kids don't like that, but they can get over that and they can learn to like it. Or if it's prepared in a way that, like if it's baked or,
it's different than what they've had before. Their friend's mom makes it. Then all of a sudden it's the most amazing thing ever. Right? And you're like, what the heck? You never eat this.
But I'm sure people out there, people in your life that have certain preferences, and it's not an allergy. It's not sensitivity. It's not like they're physically can't eat it. It's because something that happened in their childhood, and they just do not like that food, and they just can't get around the fact that
they just keep
try it.
They've always been told, and they keep telling themselves, oh, I don't like for me it was mushrooms.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, mushrooms, Brussels sprouts, I think that was about it for me. And I just like anytime we would go somewhere, my parents would be like, oh, right, you don't like mushrooms, so you don't want to order that or whatever.
Oh, so they reinforced it.
I think they probably did.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blame them, but I'm guessing that's probably common. So we won't say my parents did that, but parents do that. And then so I kept getting in my own head reinforced that I don't like mushrooms. And then one day when I was older, I tried them. I think they were hot mushrooms on a pizza, and I tried it and went, oh, actually these are okay. I'll eat hot mushrooms now, And then, a few years later, I tried raw mushrooms, and it was a situation where I just felt I needed to, they were offered, and I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll give them a try. And I'm like, these are actually not too bad. I don't know what all the fuss was about. So
because you didn't like it once, maybe.
Well, I didn't like it once, and then it was reinforced every time after that. So I never gave myself a second or third chance to try them. And like Sandra said, it takes 16 times, which is a lot of tries. So don't give up, and you don't want to be jamming food down your kid's throat every day, going, try it again.
Well, you
know.
never jam it down their throat.
No, but I just mean, like, don't like make it an issue where,
Yeah.
oh, you have to try it 12 more times. Sandra said so.
You're so funny. That's not going to happen. It's not quite like that, but.
But yeah, I mean, just every once in a while, if they don't like it the first time, try it again in a few weeks, maybe in a different setting, a different situation, prepare it differently, and don't give up.
I know in our family, my dad didn't like green peppers and mushrooms. Like I have a whole list in my head, and so it's funny because we ate them anyways, and he just, I don't know, it's funny. Anyways, I love all those things. And now when we cook, and if I ever cook for them, those things go into it, and we don't make a big deal of it. And it's just, yeah.
I loved when I met your dad and he was so fussy about that stuff. I would intentionally put tons of it in whatever I made and watch him just love it. And, Rob, this is so good. What's in it? And then I'd tell him, and then, yeah, it was kind of fun.
It's funny because I think it's like when you have a dislike when you're young and it's reinforced, or if you just reinforce it yourself that I don't like this, it's part of who you are, and it's part of your identity. So that's a huge thing to try to break free of. And yeah, anyway, so if we can help parents with young ones and help them with trying to get some variety and more diversity with their meals, then it'll be helpful.
Everyone will be happy.
Number 5, take control of the pantry.
Get in there.
You set the tone. You're the role model. You decide what groceries are in what
is in the house.
And when the kitchen's open. Also you control, like, if it's young kids, then no, kitchen's closed an hour before dinner just because you want them to eat dinner.
Exactly. Yeah, making or controlling what you bring into the house. And we mentioned this with the grocery shopping episode. If you don't want your kids to eat junk food, don't buy junk food. Problem solved. Like, if the only snacks they have are like fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds and healthy things like that, then those are the choices they're going to make. So you control what foods get brought into the house, and makes your life a whole lot easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And having a routine with when the kitchen's open, so having a routine about when you serve the meals and snacks, it's kind of similar time most days, really helps kids. Like, kids thrive with routine and schedule.
Yeah. Kids love to eat when they get home from school, which is a good time for snacks because it's usually gives you enough time before dinner that they're not going to fill up. But what are you laughing at?
Oh, I just number 8 was actually stick to routine, so I kind of jumped ahead there. Sorry.
That's okay. We'll pretend we didn't hear that. Yeah. So after school, kids are going to want to eat, so that's a good time for them to have snacks, I think. I don't know. And then dinner is a while later, so it's probably not a bad thing. Yeah.
And you control what. Remember, the parent is responsible for what and when.
You know what you used to do? You used to have like this whole plate of food for when the kids got home from school, like this plate full of all these different snacks, and they just come in and just like devour it.
What was on it?
Oh, there was like
cut up apple.
Yeah, apples and probably
cheese
some crackers or something,
grapes.
And just a whole variety of different things. And yeah, they'd inhale most of it, and then they're good.
Yeah, because I mean, you gotta assume that. Well, people, like, everybody seems hungry late afternoon, kind of before dinner, between like 4 and 6. It's just that time of like the witching hour, they used to call it, right?
It's happy hour.
Well, it
changes its name as an adult. Yeah, it becomes happy hour.
That's right. But you get hungry after your day, and I don't know. And it's good to have, to be prepared for that, like to know that, okay, kids are going to be hungry when they get home from school. They're going to go and reach for the cookies or ice cream, but you could maybe have something available that's vegetables, fruits, nuts, whole grains.
Yeah, kids' idea of cooking or preparing a meal is opening a box. or ripping open a bag. That's the extent of it for a kid. So
A lot of adults too, though.
well, yeah, right. So yeah, go the extra mile and maybe prepare something a little more healthy for them because they will be hungry.
Great.
All right, what's
Number 6?
number 6?
Recruit help. So even though you're in charge of what the food is and when, you can actually help get
the kids to help.
Yeah, like cutting up vegetables for dinner, setting the table, help with buying groceries. Like, why don't you pick out something in the fruit, in the produce section? And so give them the opportunity to make some of the choices, and then it gives them a feeling of sense of
ownership, kind of over, being part of the decision process.
Yeah, and picking things they like, in moderation in terms of like what part of the grocery store.
Look, Mom, I found this giant box of Captain Crunch, and it's on sale. It's buy one get one free. Yeah, so not that. Yeah, and as far as helping in the kitchen, I think if they feel more involved, they're probably going to be more willing when it comes to the eating part of it, because it's kind of like the reward for all the work they did.
Absolutely. And it's a sense of responsibility, right? Of being part of the family and being, a team player in the household. And okay, you can help with, getting the dinner ready and helping with, we need to peel the potatoes or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe sometimes allowing them to have a choice in what vegetable you eat that night, or if you want the potatoes mashed or roasted or whatever, so that they feel like they're contributing, making decisions. And
yeah, or like what vegetable do you want in the salad? So we're making a salad. Let's put some cucumber or green pepper or carrots and see what your child wants to add to that salad.
Perfect.
Number 7, respect your child's appetite or lack of one.
Exactly.
So don't go to war at the dinner table and just try one bite. Honey, just try one bite.
Yeah, just because it's 6 o'clock or whatever your dinner time is doesn't mean anybody at the table is actually hungry, especially kids, because they're still, I'm guessing, developing their appetite clock, we'll call it. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe that's completely garbage, but
kids know their own appetite. They're like, if anything, we should, kids know their internal cues for hunger way better than adults do, because we've been, like over the years dieting and all these we got to eat when it's 6 o'clock or whatever. But kids, they feel hungry or they don't feel hungry. And so if they don't want to eat, then they're not hungry. And so respect that.
Yeah. It makes it difficult, like trying to run your household when someone's not hungry at dinner time, and then you feel like you got to make a meal for them later or whatever. Like, I think we're trying to squeeze everyone into work around the clock.
Mm-hmm.
But
it
doesn't always fit as far as their appetite.
Yeah, and if you mentioned about that's the thing with kids, their stomachs are small too, so it is good to have snacks between meals. And if there's like a routine and kind of they know what to expect, then okay, they're not going to eat dinner, but there might be a bedtime snack if that's part of what happens in your house, and so that's when they eat again. So it's like they're not going to starve, and it doesn't help anyone if you're nagging about eating, because then they use that. It's like they can manipulate the mealtime around what they want. So when respecting their appetite, choose your battles. So you can get your daughter to come to the table, but you can't make her eat. So basically you set the mood for a good meal, and so everyone wants to eat the food. You set the mood, so you eat the food. But it's not going to be perfect every time, obviously. So if, say, there's a bit of a control issue going on, and the child comes to the table and they just cross their arms and they say, I won't eat. You don't have to start to...
It doesn't have to turn into a big battle.
No,
Just say, okay.
just say, okay, well, we're going to eat, so want you to be here to help keep us company while we eat.
Yep.
So just keep in mind that we don't want the dinner time and a meal time to be a battlefield or a war zone.
Exactly. And the kids will learn. If you're firm with your boundaries around meal times and food and snacks and all that, they'll learn. But if you're different every time, then they will learn that they can just that they have power and that they can get what they want. So that's when it'll turn into problems.
Yeah. Number 9, the last one, is having some variety in the meals offered in the food and being creative. So just, maybe making it look nice, having a colorful plate, and that will help set the mood so that people will eat the food.
Yeah, it makes it more fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's fun, then kids will want to be involved with it. And like we said before, if they are involved with it, it makes it more fun as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So remember the guiding principle. So the parent's responsible for selecting and buying the food, making and presenting foods, regulating the timing of meals and snacks, presenting food in a form that the child can handle, and allowing eating methods that the child can master, making meal times pleasant, helping the child participate in meal times, helping the child to attend to his eating or her eating, and maintaining a standard of behavior at the table. And the parent is not responsible for how much the child eats, whether the child eats, and how the body turns out.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think of your behavior as a parent, turn the tables and think, how would you feel if someone was treating you that way with your meal? And they're going, okay, you finish up those 3 carrots. And that you'd be like, you think of a few choice words I'm sure you'd want to say to them. So your toddler or your child is really no different. They just don't have those choice words at their disposal. So, but the reaction to having someone control what goes in their body is going to be the same as anyone else. So just keep
That's
that in
a really
mind.
interesting. I like that you said that. Turn the table.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it for sure.
Well, that's how I would feel. So I'm assuming I'm no different than anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Wow. Okay, so the 9 mealtime strategies for picky eaters. Number 1, don't label your child.
As a picky eater.
Number 2, don't make food a reward. Number 3, don't be a short order cook. Number 4, be patient with new foods. Keep trying, as it takes at least 16 tries to actually truly decide if you like something or don't like it.
Right.
Take control of the pantry and the food in the house.
That's the next one.
Yeah, number 5. And number 6, recruit help with the child helping with mealtime prep and groceries. Number 7, respect the child's appetite or lack of one. And that includes don't go to war at the dinner table. And number 8 is stick to routine.
As much as possible.
Yeah, as children thrive with routine, having meals and snacks at similar time each day.
Yeah, it will help them be hungry when there's a dinner time. Then, they'll be ready for it.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. And last one, have variety and be creative with the meals.
Well, that's good. That's a good list.
Yeah, they're so interesting. And it's, I think it's on this topic is pretty timely and relevant for many parents with young children.
Yeah, it's it's really common sense, a lot of this stuff, but it's so challenging, and anyone who's a parent or has had to deal with feeding anybody really, whether it's a parent or an elderly or a child rather, or an elderly parent even, trying to feed somebody else.
Yes.
It's tricky. So these are some pretty good rules to
and
keep in mind.
You're right. The feeding relationship really is exactly the same with caregiver and elderly parent or somebody that you're trying to help with meals, it's the exact same feeding relationship. The parent or the caregiver is responsible for what the food is and when, and the child or the person being fed or getting helped is responsible for if they eat and how much.
Right, exactly.
So it really helps take that that nagging and the offering treats and that kind of thing out of the equation.
For sure.
Good.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that was helpful and you learned something from our list of 9 mealtime strategies. And yeah, thank you, Sandra.
Thanks, Rob.
We'll be back next week again with more exciting food stuff. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.